WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge in
All right, Brother Warren. I see you, brother.
so
Good
the
morning.
pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression on people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, and let's get them started. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. All right, let's start out here, a public service announcement. Save the date. Join us for the first annual Malcolm X Day, Newcastle, Delaware. On Sunday, May 19th, that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. sharp on Newcastle Avenue in front of the Route 9 Library. Come out. Help us save the community. Save our future. All are welcome. The mission is clear. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Malcolm said, I believe in the brotherhood of all men, but I don't believe in wasting brotherhood on anyone who doesn't want to practice with me. Brotherhood is a two-way street. Malcolm X. Okay, let me get my disclaimer out the way, and we're going to get them started. Where is it? There it is. All right.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. Wax a little philosophically here to get the show started. All right. You know, if my friend has $4 and I have 40, I'm buying. If my friend has no gas and I do, I'm driving. If my friend has nothing to drink and I do, I'm pouring. If my friend has no food and I have a McChicken, we McSplitting that thing. Some of y'all are so greedy it's sickening. We lift each other up over here. Yeah. See, I honestly believe human beings are not meant to live like this. We are meant to live in loving communities and be around nature every day and grow our own food and create art and work and not work day and night until we die. This longing for another life is not human nature. It's a symptom of modern society. Yeah, we're going to get deeper into that. You're one of my, oh, yeah, that's cooler with the music there. All right. One of my favorite artists from the old days school named after him here. Cab Calloway, the band leader and singer, was a true pioneer of the Harlem Renaissance era. Born Cabell Calloway III in 1907, he initially studied law and accounting at Crane College in Chicago. Yeah, I bet not many of us knew that. Come on. There you go. Even co-writing the school's official song. But music was his true calling, and boy, are we glad he answered it. Cab first rose to fame, leading one of the most popular African-American big bands in the 1930s and 40s. His energetic performances in outrageous zoot suits, the long jacket sleeves and wide legs, which was meant to parody the fad, but it became his iconic look, made him a symbol of the vibrant Harlem scene. But it was his unique scat singing that really set him apart. You've likely heard his most famous scat vocals on the classic Minnie the Moocher, that wild song with his Heidi Heidi Ho, a phrase he claimed to have coined. It caused such an absolute frenzy when first performed at the Cotton Club in 1931. During World War II, Cab was one of the first to take an integrated band on tour for black and white soldiers, defying racial segregation. He was even named a Duke by the Zulu tribe in South Africa after a 1940s goodwill tour there. Beyond music, this talented sketch artist and trendsetter paved the way for black performers in film and TV. Cab remained a beloved figure until his death in 1994 at 86. So let's celebrate the Heidi Ho man who shattered barriers and got everyone scat singing. His multi-talented, one-of-a-kind legacy lives on. And it lives on beyond his singing because Cab Calloway, when he was at the Cotton Club, the Cotton Club's chorus line was known as tall, tan, and beautiful. And all the women were light-skinned. Cab Calloway said, wait a minute. We got to get some dark-skinned sisters in there, even though the owners of the Cotton Club were vehemently against that. But they wanted Cab to perform. So Cab Calloway broke the color barrier in the Cotton Club's chorus line. It's something Dr. Clark always says, you have to know the gossip of history. Okay? Not many people know that Jeanette Du Bois, better known as Willona Woods of Good Times, was Cab Calloway's daughter. Yeah, that was Cab Calloway's daughter, born out of wedlock, may have been the product of an affair or whatever. But Cab Calloway, even though they kept it secret, actually didn't come out until Willona Woods, knows of Willona Woods, Jeanette Du Bois died a couple of years ago. And Cab Calloway was very much instrumental in her rise in show business. He made sure that doors opened for Jeanette Du Bois' daughter. How many of you knew that? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. A couple of days ago, I had a discussion with my good friend Vaughn Morris about Eisenhower. course, it was before my time, and Vaughn was a kid at the time. But I asked him how black people felt about Eisenhower. And he said, oh, yeah, black people loved Eisenhower. You know, yeah, they was down with Ike. Mm-hmm. And this might be one of the reasons why. In 1954, Eisenhower said, should any political party attempt to abolish Social Security, unemployment insurance, and eliminate labor laws and farm programs, you would not hear of that party again in our political history. There's a tiny splinter group, of course, that believes you can do these things. Among them are a few Texas oil millionaires and an occasional politician or businessman, and they are stupid. Eisenhower was probably the last presidential candidate that blacks voted for in the majority in overwhelming numbers, probably around 80%. And then in 1960, blacks that were Republicans shifted and voted for Kennedy. Okay? And something that Vaughn pointed out to me, you had a whole lot of people running around, black people running around, who were at that time registered as Republicans, but voted Democrat. And the reason for that was the shift of the parties. And it's interesting that these parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, you know, that shift took place almost unnoticed or without being reported. When Eisenhower ran for president, he probably had something like anywhere from 70 to 80% of black people voting. And then you had a major shift, 80 to 90% of black people shifting over to the Democratic Party when voting for Kennedy. And of course, that was solidified with LBJ, who trounced Barry Goldwater with his Southern strategy, the early days of the Southern strategy. Goldwater spoke vehemently against desegregation. Mm-hmm. And black people shifted. And the party shifted. Because the Republican Party became the party of the Confederacy of racism. And it still is. Yeah. Now, this is a quote from a history teacher. And what he said was, being a history teacher, every time I watch World War II and Hitler, students will every time I teach World War II and Hitler, students will inevitably ask, why would the German people ever elect a man like Hitler? I tried to explain it to them that when he ran for office, he promised to stand strong against immigration, communism, and the economy, which were the three biggest fears for the German people at that time. Sound familiar? The German people loved it. But my students had a hard time grasping the concept as to why Hitler rose to power. The funny thing is, it happens again. But this time it's happening here in America. And the issues that were being raised are almost identical to 1930s Germany. That's why I asked you, did it sound familiar? Trump panders to American fears the exact same way Hitler did in Germany 80 years ago. If y'all want to take the time and compare Trump's speeches and Hitler's, you will discover that they sound eerily similar. Instead of communism, it's terrorism. Instead of putting blame on the Jews, it's the Muslims. Instead of Polish and Jewish immigrants, it's Mexicans. So to my ex-students, whoever asked me that question, just turn on the mainstream media to see how a maniac got easily elected. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You ever seen the video of the kid? You know, his parents are sitting there on the couch and he's about 5 or 6 years old and he's got a knife. And he's going to stick it in the electric socket. And the mother sees this and says, oh. And the father said, nah, let him do it. Let him do it. Let him F-A-F-O. And he did. Yeah, it shocked him and knocked him on his butt. F-A-F-O. Bet he don't do that no more, huh? Yeah. Now, why bring that up? Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She really thought she said something when she made a crack about Jasmine Crockett's fake eyelashes. F-A-F-O. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is the kind of sister you're proud to see get into Congress. She's a Democrat who represents parts of Dallas. She's a lawyer who's tough, smart, and Jinsu knife sharp with the tongue. Okay, you can see her warrior spirit. There are a lot of great clips of her reading people for filth. I mean, she do it too. So whenever she's on the news, you know, I pay attention. Well, Thursday brought us another chance to cheer for the sister from Texas. When a C-SPAN hearing started to look like a video from World Star Hip Hop. That's right. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a crazy person from Northwest Georgia, who would love to be Donald Trump's vice president. All right. She's kind of like the queen of America's Karens. I'm talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is an awful wench. Bat-ish crazy. You know? Well, this week Greene was outright rude and inappropriate in attacking Crockett because when you're MAGA, attacking black people, that's good for business. Yeah, so Greene created a wild scene in the House of Representatives committee hearing that was far crazier than congressional hearings usually get. Greene asked, I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on the committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter. And she was referring to Judge Juan Merchan, who is presiding over Trump's hush money trial in New York City. His daughter worked at a firm that works with Democratic candidates and has been the subject of attacks from Trump and his cronies. But all of this was irrelevant to the issue at hand. It was a hearing about holding Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. The Democrats were befuddled. They were confused, muttering until a voice rose from the den. It was Congresswoman Crockett. She said, please tell me what this has to do with Merrick Garland. Oh yeah, Steve, she learned the hard way. Do you know what we're here for? That line was giving. Are you okay? Are you confused? Are you in the right room? That's what she asked Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, the question had a little shade on it, but not too much. It could have been ignored, but Karens like Greene never miss a chance to say something nasty. I don't think you know what we're here for, Greene replied, a childish retort. You say I smell. Well, I say you smell, so there. But then Greene went too far. She told Crockett, I think your fake eyelashes are messing up what you're reading. F-A-F-O. Yeah. Oh, no, she didn't. Yeah, she did. Why she had to make it about Crockett's physical appearance? This is what being loud and wrong looks like. Because Green was wrong. Judge Marchand's daughter had nothing to do with anything going on in that room, and she was loudly attacking Crockett as if it were Crockett who was wrong. And there was an ad hominem attack. From there, you knew it was going to be a good food fight. There are all sorts of microaggressions that we are used to, but we don't have to accept being treated badly for the sake of decorum. We don't have to keep the peace in the face of disrespect. Peace without respect is not peace. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez jumped in on behalf of Crockett. She said, that is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person? She was speaking in the language of tolerance. And of course, Green, with her crazy self, are your feelings hurt? She was speaking in the language of screw your feelings. And Green loves to be seen fighting with other members of Congress because it sends a message to her MAGA voters that she's tough and won't back down from DC types. You know, it makes you think George Carlin. What'd he say? Be leery, I'm paraphrasing, be leery of stupid people in large crowds. That's how you get a moron, bat-ish crazy hussy like Margaret Taylor Greene in Congress. I bet she also believes that fighting with black and brown members make her look good to the MAGA voters in her district. I'm sure it does. AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, followed up with, oh girl, baby girl, don't even play. AOC represents the Bronx. Of course, Green continued to play in their faces. You know the type. She's the sort of white person who would say something racist and then claim to be the victim of racism. Ocasio-Cortez repeatedly demanded that her words be stricken from the record and that she apologize sincerely. Green agreed to have her words stricken, but said, you are never getting an apology out of me. Just trifling, just a trifling hussy. Later on in the hearing, Crockett found a sly way to hit Green back. She asked a hypothetical question. Okay. Would it be acceptable, she said, to talk about somebody's bleach, blonde, bad, built, butch body? Damn! What? Yeah, that's what she said. Don't say that again. Would it be acceptable to talk about somebody's bleach, blonde, bad, built, butch body? F-A-F-O. And that was, you talk about putting a black eye in the game. And, and that went viral. You can believe that. That went viral. Oh, you got people making hip-hop songs out of that and everything. Boom, 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 boom. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. Have you ever seen Margaret Taylor Greene? That was the apt description. Yeah, she was talking back to Green without directly talking back to Green, and it allowed Crockett to get in a verbal punch while also maintaining her dignity. I mean, she was just asking a question. Yeah, that's word. Oh, and of course, Green, then she started crying. Oh, well, you can't talk to people like that. Oh, that needs to be stricken from the record. Oh, it was I when you did it, huh? Yeah. You can't dish it out, don't take it. You can't dish it out, don't show up without a plate. Because somebody going to give it to you and you hit the right one. You damn sure did. Boy, you talk about learning the hard way. Bleach, blonde, bad, built, butch body. WHGE 95.3 FM. That was fun. The Open Eye. Yes, indeed. Riding with your third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, right here. You know, one of the things that conservatives like to claim is that the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln. You know, because Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves that were in the Confederacy. Actually, the Republican Party was not really the party of Lincoln. It was the party of Thaddeus Stevens. Thaddeus Stevens, the leader of the radical Republicans. And of course, during that time, the Republicans were the liberals of the on the political spectrum. Okay? The conservatives and racists were in the Democratic Party at that time. But like I told you, you know, don't get it mixed. Don't let them fool you. The party shifted, really starting in 48 with the Dixie Democrats when was his name? Thurman? I can't remember his name. But at any rate, when Truman integrated the military, Truman, who was a Democrat, FDR's successor, when he did that, you know, the Southern Democrats lost their mind and they created the Dixie Democrats. Strom Thurmond, yeah, ran as the presidential nominee of the Dixie Democrats. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Strom Thurmond. Yeah, a real racist bastard. He always was, you know. And of course, as time went on, by the time you got the Nixon, the Southern strategy was in effect, and the Republicans started seriously shifting over. I mean, conservatives and racists started seriously shifting over to the Republican Party. The thing is this, you know, the conservatism has been the bane of America. You know, they like to, well, you know, America is what it is because of conservatism. BS. I almost said it out. Damn near said it out. You know, pundits declared the white terrorist attack on the Capitol and the shenanigans Trump unprecedented. Nah, unprecedented? Nah, I don't think so. Because let us not forget who these people are and have always been. Remember, going back to the Revolutionary War, conservatives wanted to stay loyal to England. Conservatives wanted to make president a lifelong appointment. Conservatives fought against bringing in slave-free states without slave-holding states. Conservatives fought for the 5/8 rule, 3/5, that counted slaves. Conservatives fought for secession from the Union because they wanted to keep slaves. Conservatives fought against women's suffrage. Conservatives fought for prohibition. And what a disaster that was. Because it was prohibition that gave the rise to the Al Capones and Lucky Lucianos. That's word. Conservatives wanted to keep us out of World War I and World War II. It was conservatives that created Jim Crow laws. Conservatives lynched blacks routinely. Conservatives fought against integration. It was conservatives that put up whites-only signs. It was your conservative grandmother throwing rocks at students integrating schools. Conservatives fought against the Civil Rights Act. Conservatives wanted to stay in Vietnam. Conservatives brought you homelessness and huge deficits. You think they didn't? Ronald Reagan. Conservatives try to eliminate welfare without helping those turned out in the cold. Some cold-hearted people. Conservatives fought against Social Security. Conservatives wanted to teach intelligent design in schools. And conservatives want to do away with the education cabinet posts. Conservatives want the church and their brand of Christian nationalism imposed into all aspects of your life. Remember, it was conservatives that advocated the war and occupation in Iraq. It was conservatives that brought down Roe versus Wade and want to control women's health care decisions. So what have conservatives ever done that benefited America? You know what? You can't be conservative and American. It's an oxymoron. You can't be a conservative American. There's no such goddamn thing. Conservatives held the White House for 20 of the last 34 years. And they brought the country to the brink of destruction, seeming hell-bent on finishing the job. The progress that America has made was in spite of conservatism, not because of it. You know what? If someone were to call me a conservative, I would be very offended. Them's fighting words. It's a low blow. It's a high insult. And it's worthy of a goddamn punch in the mouth. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. You are enjoying the Open Eye. You're welcome, brother Lawrence. Jasmine Crockett, that's one of my favorites too. All right. Moving right along. Conservatives like Greg Abbott. Yeah. Why did Greg Abbott pardon a racist murderer? You know, this fool, he didn't offer much of a rationale in granting clemency to Daniel Perry, who killed a Black Lives Matter protester in 2020, but apparently the enemy of his enemy is his friend. Yeah. Before we get to the substance of what happened, when Governor Greg Abbott pardoned Daniel Perry for murder, it's important to be specific and clear about what happened to Perry on the night of July 25th, 2020. The state leaders celebrating the pardon, most prominently Attorney General Ken Paxton, are effectively telling us the specifics of the case are not important. You know what? When someone in power tells us that, it's a good idea to look more closely. Okay. In the summer of 2020, protests against police violence erupted across the United States. Most of these protests were peaceful, and some, like the one in Vidor, a former sundown town, were downright wholesome. Others, though, turned violent, and rioters destroyed property in cities such as Minneapolis and Los Angeles. Now, you know, many of those rioters were sent in, bad faith protesters. For many, it seemed a moment when long-sought reforms were possible. For others, it was a time of fear. Garrett Foster, a 28-year-old white man and Air Force veteran from a conservative family who was sympathetic to the protest, carried an AK-47 style rifle to a rally in downtown Austin, as is legal in Texas, with the stated goal of protecting other marchers, including his longtime girlfriend. Daniel Perry, a 30-year-old white man, an Army sergeant who was driving for Uber that night, ran a red light and drove his car into the crowd. He was also legally carrying a gun. Foster, sensing a potential threat, approached Perry's car. Perry, seeing a man with a rifle, also sensed a potential threat. At this point, both men were fully in compliance with Texas gun laws, which make those laws seem pretty silly in retrospect. When you have this many armed men running around, what the hell do you think is going to happen? His defenders claim that Perry fired because Foster pointed his rifle at Perry. He did not, as Perry made clear in his initial interview with police. He told officers that he was the first to point his gun. To police, Perry said, "I believe he was going to aim his rifle at me. I didn't give him the chance." He was not, in other words, claiming the right to self-defense. He was claiming the right to preemptively kill someone he thought might become a threat. Now, that probably sounded good to those police officers. Okay. Yep. I thought he was going to be a threat. No witness testified that Foster raised his weapon. A jury of Perry's peers determined he had not acted in self-defense, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder in 2023. A day later, Abbott vowed that he would pardon Perry pending a recommendation to do so by the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, whose 7 members Abbott appointed. At the time, Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old who killed 2 at a protest in Wisconsin and was cleared of murder charges after arguing self-defense, was becoming a right-wing celebrity. For Abbott, who is ever trying to bolster his credentials on the right and with races, vowing to pardon Perry was a no-brainer, particularly after TV host Tucker Carlson taunted him for not doing so. We need to lock Tucker Carlson's sorry ass up too. A few days later, court records released records showing that Perry used racist language, compared protesters to monkeys in a zoo, and had fantasized for weeks about shooting a protester at a Black Lives Matter rally, excuse me. "I might have to kill a few people on my way to work," he wrote once. "Another time, I might go to Dallas to shoot looters." He flirted online with teenagers. He reminisced about the time he shot an Afghan in the chest with a .50 caliber, adding that they're not real people. His other messages reveal a man who is angry, alienated, and conspiratorial. He wrote that he believed the Black Lives Matter movement wanted his parents to lose their 4-room house to give to a poor black family. His job as an Uber driver made it hard not to draw the comparison with Travis Bickle, the character played by Robert De Niro in the 1976 movie Taxi Driver. So, moving right along here, Abbott rewarded him, just as he rewarded Austin police officer Justin Berry when Berry was indicted in 2022 on charges he had used excessive force on protesters at a Black Lives Matter rally in 2020. Abbott responded by endorsing his bid for the state house, and then when he lost, appointed him to the state commission that sets standards for law enforcement. Okay? You see this desire for punishment again and again across the decades. When the idealist students at Kent State peacefully protested the Vietnam War were disciplined by a unit of the Ohio National Guard, which killed 4 and wounded 9 protesters in 1970, many Americans cheered. The Houston Post wrote an editorial that the shooting of students was possibly the result of permissiveness in child rearing. Kind of crap is that? Which had led the young to think they could challenge the old order. At the very least, the paper wrote, it would appear that they have not learned the necessity of submitting to discipline. Texas is not a military dictatorship, and Abbott did not send Perry to attack Black Lives Matter protesters. We're not yet in the years of lead, but the unjustified pardon of Perry is a form of a state crime, and it's ugly. What's next? The news of the pardon came soon after Abbott deployed state police, heavily armed, to crack down on another peaceful protest movement that is unpopular amongst his supporters. The rally at the University of Texas in Austin against Israel's conduct during its war against Hamas in Gaza. But the strange forces are waiting in the wings that have taken the wrong lesson from what Abbott did this week. What would Abbott do or fail to do when they act? Can't be conservative and American. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, the advocacy education station. Yeah, my hour flies by. It don't help that I'm coming late half the time. I'm never late. I'm on time when I get here. Damn it. All right. Have you ever heard of Shaheed Bolson? It's a guy, he's from, he was originally from Wisconsin or somewhere. And he says he's of, what is it, German-Irish descent or something like that. At any rate, this cat be getting something said here, and I want to share with you one of his latest commentaries. The people of the West are starting to tear down their own false idols and the whole quasi-religious secular worship of the rich and all the high priests and high priestesses of ritualistic distraction, frivolity, and materialism. Zionism is colonization, and colonization is a manifestation of cancerous capitalism. And cancerous capitalism is a manifestation of Western supremacy, and Western supremacy is a manifestation of dehumanizing racism and classism, and racism and classism a manifestation of a culture that has no genuine moral values and can only elevate itself by subjugating others. It's primitive. It's primitive and savage. is primitive and savage and cynical. And once you realize that your country, your so-called civilization, once you realize that it is primitive and savage and cynical, when you see that they're like that with others, then you start to recognize that they're even like that with you. They're even like that with their own citizens. You start to realize that you never stop being serfs in the West, and they never stop being feudal lords and feudal masters in the West, and the whole narrative that you grew up believing is just a tapestry of lies. The sack that they put over your head so that you could never see what's really going on. But like I said, that tapestry is unraveling today. And they're never going to be able to sew it back together. Never. I think that the United States had a limited window of opportunity to break up with Israel. They had a limited time period where they could break up decisively with Israel before that toxic relationship infected their whole system. And that time has passed. It's too late. You should have moved decisively against Netanyahu months ago if you didn't want your murderous hypocrisy to be exposed. You should have done something about Netanyahu before it was too late. You know, you're like one of those vampires from the vampire movies who has to get to safety before the sun comes up. But you didn't move fast enough. And now you're dissolving in the daylight in front of everybody. The explosions and the screams from Gaza were too loud to drown out with the soft jazz elevator music of American virtue. And everyone has heard their voices now. And that means that everyone knows you've been trying to hide the truth from them all this time. You know, people in the West, people in America, and throughout the West are collectively having their Oscar Schindler moment of clarity and guilt, realizing that while their societies were gorging them on entertainment, on music, late night talk shows, celebrity gossip, and pornography, atrocities were being committed. Carnage and brutal injustice was being inflicted on innocent people by their countries all around the world and in their own countries, to be honest. And that they're realizing that the entirety of popular culture and mass media, all of that operated all this time, has nothing but an anesthetic to dull their senses and numb their minds to the reality of their own civilization. So-called civilization's cruelty and violence. And now they know they're ripping out the tubes that pump that anesthetic into their bodies. They're blocking you now. All your celebrities, all your brands, all your logos, your propaganda, all the smiling brand ambassadors who've gotten rich off of your neutralization, your exploitation, your nullification, and your desensitization. You thought you were just passing your time when you were binge watching Netflix. You didn't know that you were being deliberately distracted, deliberately diverted. Your attention was deliberately being redirected so you wouldn't realize that crimes were being committed. Every time you press next episode, you have virtual reality goggles stuck on your head so that you wouldn't witness the crimes, and you welcomed those goggles. You welcomed that virtual reality because the actual reality of your own life was so boring and tedious and miserable. They filled your days with drudgery so that you would race to escapism. They filled your life with ugliness so that you would use whatever free moment you had to just passively invite curiously stare at the vapid beauty of celebrities. Oh, they've been drugging you. They've been sedating you for years now, for decades, and all this time, they've been making you unknowing accomplice to their inhuman oppression and brutality. But the cries from Gaza, the explosions and the cries from Gaza broke through the white noise soundtrack of triviality and propaganda. You know, that's why they're prosecuting the student protests so hard. Because they're not just opposing Zionism's genocide, but opposing Zionism and genocide. They're setting off a chain reaction. That chain reaction is short-circuiting the whole system of social engineering and control that has allowed the parasitic elite to ravage the planet for years, for decades, without scrutiny or accountability. So they're punishing those protesters because the protesters are saying that they've gone too far. And they can't accept the ideal that there's even such a thing as too far for them. They're not supposed to have limits. They're not supposed to be bound by any sort of moral limitations, much less limitations that are being set by the people. You know, people that they disdain so profoundly that they think they can be replaced by AI and robots. They don't think you matter at all, and it enrages them that you think you do matter. And they're even more enraged precisely because of the way that the protests are being done by the targets of the activism, because the protesters are focusing on the private sector. They're focusing on businesses, on investments, on financial partnerships, on funding. They're not focusing on politicians. You're supposed to direct all your outrage and all your anger and all your grievances and all your opposition at the decoys, at the effigies, at the fake representatives of power. The expendable puppet politicians dangled in front of you by the real private sector ruling class. So it's unforgivable that those protesters have torn down the curtain around real existing power and exposed the fallacy of democracy. Those protesters have started a fire that's going to burn straight through the whole system. But you can't blame them for the fact that your system has been flammable to begin with. That's your fault. The way you built your system made this inedible. If you built your system on truth and honesty, on justice and genuine morality, and on decency and fairness, well, no one would be able to bring it down. But you built it, decided. You chose to build it on deceit, hypocrisy, on unfairness and exploitation and bigotry, violence, racism, greed, and oppression. And that's all highly combustible. Those are highly combustible materials, you know? In hindsight, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to put a torch in the hand of the Statue of Liberty. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. I see. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Third eye optometrist Patrice Gibbs. You know, many of our people are not ready for the responsibility of revolution and nationhood. You know what? Some people ain't gonna like this, but I really don't give a damn. Too many of our people are more interested in mental masturbation. Why we open the show the way we do. They're more interested in finding a comfortable niche within the system of white supremacy than being actual agents of change. More than happy to post videos showing the problems, the oppression, and the history of our suffering, but rarely speaking or offering any solutions. Internet revolutionaries, quick to holler black power and show the raised fist, but whenever shown how to gain that power or shown the path out of the abyss of oppression, most shy away or just flat out ignore it. Won't pass it on, share it, or even comment on it. But let the next police video pop up. Oh, we're being oppressed. Shut up. You're just complaining. What are you going to do about it? If you're not ready to put in work or at least offer solutions and education, you're just indulging in emotional gratification. Miss me with that, please. Earned the right to say it. Did you? Black power. Now what? WHGE 95.3 FM, the open eye. An hour has flown on by. You know, and as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining me on The Open Eye. All right. As I always tell you, global African supremacy. Pay attention to what's going on in Africa. Look at Burkina Faso. Remember the Moors? Yeah. Global African supremacy. Because the world was a much better place when the African ruled.